Hey everyone, welcome to Homeschool, and we are with the chapter Sustainable Management of Natural Resources. See, I have already done an introduction part of this chapter where I have covered the Ganga Action Plan and the need to managing our natural resources, and also we studied about the 5 R's which we have to adopt to save the environment. So if you want to watch this video, you can go to the link that is provided in the description where you would get a detailed explanation about the concepts. And coming to today's session, I am with the topic forest and wildlife. See, forest and wildlife is one important natural resource where a man is completely dependent on, and due to the man's activity, the forest area is depleting day by day. And also wildlife, many of the species are getting extinct. Say there is a need to conserve this forest and wildlife, and let us see how to conserve this forest and wildlife and various other aspects surrounding a forest. Okay, so first and foremost, let us try to understand what do you mean by forest. We normally say forests are the main spots of biodiversity. So what did I just say? Forests are the spots of biodiversity. So what do you mean by biodiversity? Right? Say biodiversity is nothing but certain area. It is a particular area where many species of plants and animals live. And such areas are called biodiversity areas. Okay, it is a particular area or a region or a space, where many varieties of plant species and varieties of animal species can stay depending on each other, right? And maintaining a harmony in the ecology. Say such a place or area, we call it as biodiversity. And forests are the main spots of biodiversity, is because in a forest, if you see, you will find many varieties of plant species and many varieties of animal species, right? Say that's the reason forests are the main spots of biodiversity. And to maintain ecology, to have a ecological balance, biodiversity spots play a very, very important role. So that's the reason we need to protect our biodiversity spots like forest. Fine. And this forest can provide a wealth of resources. It will provide lots of important resources for a man. We can get wood, timber, medicine, fruits, nuts, and whatnot. We can get everything from a forest, isn't it? And let us first talk about the stakeholders of forest. There is something called stakeholders. So what do you mean by stakeholders of forest? The people who use forest produce are called stakeholders. See, I'm writing a definition for stakeholders of forest. The people who use forest produce. So what do you mean by forest produce here? Forest produce is nothing but various things that you get out of the forest. See, we get various things. We can get wood, we can get timber, and you would get lots of medicine, many other things you can get it from forest, right? So the things and varieties of substances that you get from a forest are called forest produce. So the people who are using a forest produce are called stakeholders. There are 4 stakeholders of forest. First one is local people. So what do you mean by local people? Local people are nothing but the people who live in forest. live in forest. So we have heard of tribal people. So these tribal people, they live in forest or they live near a forest, right? So they are one of the important stakeholders of the forest. Why? Because these local people completely dependent on a forest for their livelihood, right? And they get food from a forest, and they will get wood, they would get timber, bamboos, right, for their housing and everything. They are completely dependent on a forest. So that's why we call local people as one of the important stakeholders of forest. And the next is our government people. Government people, or I can also call it as forest officials. Forest officials. These forest officials actually own the forest land. The forest land belongs to this forest department, where they are get to manage the forest resources. It is their duty to manage the forest resources, right? So that's why the government people or the forest officials are the second type of stakeholders. And coming to the third type of stakeholders, that is industrialist. Industrialist. You know what? These industrialists to some extent depend on forest for getting their raw materials for the industries. Okay, so to some extent we can call these industrialists are also a big stakeholder for the forest. And finally, the fourth and important stakeholders of forest is nature and wildlife enthusiasts. Nature and wildlife enthusiast. See, we have seen many people fighting for the conservation of forest and wildlife, right? Voluntarily, they will try to conserve a forest. Voluntarily, they will try to bring awareness among people how to conserve and save the forest. So they are called as nature enthusiasts or wildlife enthusiasts. So these are the four stakeholders of a forest who actually use forest produce and who can manage forest in a better way and who can conserve the forest in a better way, right? So let us talk about these four stakeholders in detail, how they actually manage the forest and how they actually depend on forest and how they use the forest, right? Coming to the first type of stakeholders, that is local people. So these are the people, they live in forest and they get their wood from forest and they get bamboos, right? Bamboos, why they want bamboos here? Bamboos to build their houses, to build their houses, right? And why they get wood from a forest? Wood is for cooking food. Food is for cooking, right? And they also get their medicine from a forest. Whenever they fall ill, they get their medicine. And fruits and nuts they get as a food. They are completely dependent on the forest to some extent. So these are the people definitely will try to manage the forest. They can able to manage the forest. You know what? Getting these basic necessary things from a forest will not affect the forest to that extent. Yes or no? Will the forest get depleted if they take wood from a forest, bamboos and various other things from a forest? Definitely no. As long as they are, spread across the large area of a forest. Yes, when they are shifted to a larger areas, when they are localized to a larger areas of a forest, getting all this from forest will not affect the forest, will not damage the forest actually. But once the Britishers have approached, you know what, these local people have been confined to a very smaller portion of the forest. Okay, so when Britishers has come, what happened? The Britishers forced these local people to a smaller areas, right? Say that point, try to remember. Britishers forced these local people to a smaller areas, and that led to exploitation of the forest. That is the reason exploitation of forest took place. Okay, because when so many people are staying in a small area, then that area, you know what, it will lose that green cover. Yes or no? They would break all the trees for making houses, right? And you know, most of the forest area will get depleted, I mean in that particular area, right? So this is how the exploitation of forest took place once the Britishers have come to our country, right? So, and that is how the local people actually affected the forest. Otherwise, if these guys are confined to a larger areas, you know, nothing affects the forest actually. Getting wood and getting bamboos from a forest will not affect the forest, right? When, as long as they are spread across the large area of a forest, right? So this is one thing that we have to remember, how local people affected a forest, and to some extent actually they can manage the forest, right? And there are many instances for us where local people actually sacrificed their life to protect the forest. Say for example, you know, a lady called Amruta Devi Bishnoi. You know, there is a Bishnoi community. Bishnoi community. So these community people actually, you know, tried to conserve, you know, they protected the forest. And you know, protecting the forest is a part of their religion actually. They believe that each and every living thing has a right to stay on this earth, and you know, this is actually a part of their religion. So they started protecting the forest. You know, one such lady called Amruta Devi Bishnoi. Amruta Devi Bishnoi. You know, so this particular lady has sacrificed her life. She has sacrificed her life with 363 others, with 363 others to protect Kejri trees. Kejri trees. Okay, say a type of a tree called Kejri tree, and this Kejri tree is a sacred tree for this community people. In order to protect that Kejri tree, you know, Amruta Devi Bishnoi fought and sacrificed her life with, you know, 363 other people. You know, that was a great moment in 1760s probably, right? Say these are the various instances where local people actually acted against you know, the violation that is taking place in a forest. They actually protect the forest in a good way. So one such situation is this. You know, in order to give honor for Amruta Devi Bishnoi, our government has started giving awards in the name of her. Like we have Amruta Devi Bishnoi National Award for the people who conserve wildlife and forest, right? Say all these situations says that to some extent local people guard the forest and they even protect the forest. And now let us see how government people or forest officials can protect the forest. Actually, forest department is the one who owns the land, who owns the forest land. Okay, since they own the forest land, they are the one should manage the forest, should manage the forest to a larger extent. Okay, so it is their duty to manage the forest. It is their duty to avoid exploitation of the forest to a larger extent, right? And you know, they should set the rules and regulations. There are already some rules and regulations which are there to protect the forest or to conserve the forest and wildlife. Conserve or protect the forest and wildlife. Okay, but actually one main thing these people are doing is they started cultivating, I mean they started monoculture of take pine trees as well as eucalyptus. These are all commercial trees. Teak, pine, eucalyptus, all these are commercial trees which can be used by man for various purposes. They started cutting the existing trees and they started cultivating teak, pine, and eucalyptus. Once these trees were cut for the benefit of man, and that particular region will become barren, isn't it? And that is the way the government officials are actually exploiting the forest. It is all because to generate revenue. It is all because to generate revenue, isn't it? Say, this is one way the forest officials are actually affecting our forest resources. Say, the existing plants or trees, they are cutting it out and they started cultivating all these trees to generate a revenue. And once these trees were cut for the benefit of man, and that area is becoming a barren. See, that is how the exploitation of forest is taking place here, right? Say, this is one way the government peoples are harming the forest. Instead of that, okay, they can do some monoculture of these trees to some areas, in certain areas. But once they have extracted these trees, once they have grown, what they have to do? They have to plant some more trees in that area so that exploitation of forest can be avoided to some extent, isn't it? Say, this is what you have to remember in case of the second stakeholder, that is government officials. See, everything is there in the hand of government officials. If they can nicely manage the forest, we can conserve forest and wildlife to a larger extent, right? And now let us discuss about the third stakeholder, that is industrialists. See, these industrialists actually get raw material. They get raw material from the forest. And they completely do not depend on a forest, but they depend to smaller areas of a forest. They doesn't depend on large area of a forest. Very smaller areas they concentrate, and there whatever the raw material they will get and they will extract. So this way they will exploit the forest. They concentrate the smaller areas. They won't concentrate the entire forest. Smaller areas of forest gets exploited by these people, okay, because they'll start growing the commercially important crops in a smaller areas, with the understanding between the government and these guys. So that way they'll try to exploit the forest to some extent. Nothing is wrong to get raw material from the forest, but the thing is, once they get a material from the forest and they are not planting anything in that area, they are leaving that land as it is. See, that is the mistake these industrialists are doing. Instead of that, the moment they have got their raw material from a particular region, they must give justice to the forest by planting many more trees in that area, isn't it? So that way, to some extent, industrialists can avoid the exploitation that is taking place in a forest, right? Same, this is what about industrialist. And coming to the fourth stakeholder of the forest, that is nature and wildlife enthusiast. Nature and wildlife enthusiast. See, these people are actually very pure souls, I can say, which have a very good heart in thinking about conserving the forest. And these people actually bring awareness among the people. They bring awareness. Main thing is they bring awareness among the people to conserve the forest. To conserve the forest or to save the forest, right? And also initially what had happened is they have concentrated only the wild animals like tigers, lions, elephants. But later even they understood the great damage that is happening to the forest, and that started thinking about the green cover of the forest also, right? So initially they were very much limited to the wild animals, but now they started conserving even the green cover. Many plant species they started protecting, many animal species they started protecting, by helping for the wildlife sanctuaries and everything, right? Say this is how the four stakeholders can help in managing the forest resources, and this is how, to some extent, because of the industrialist greed, or because of the man's greed, I can say, to some extent forest is getting exploited. But we can manage, I mean, we can avoid the exploitation of forest by planting many more trees, and by introducing certain rules and regulations in the society, isn't it? Fine. So this is all about the four stakeholders of a forest in detail. And now let us discuss about how to manage our forest resources. See, the very first point that comes to our mind when we are speaking about the conservation of forest and wildlife is, avoid deforestation. Avoid deforestation. So, what do you mean by deforestation? Deforestation in the sense cutting of trees. Cutting of trees. Say, in case if we are cutting the trees for the benefit of a mankind, then in that areas you have to plant many more trees, right? Plant many more trees in a barren land. So you have to create a forest. Say when you are trying to take benefit out of a forest, you have to give some justice to the forest also, right? So when you are taking some trees from a forest, in that place you plant more trees, plant many varieties of plant species, right? So that way we can able to conserve the forest resources. And the second one is strict rules. Strict rules and regulations must be implemented by the government, right? Because to protect and conserve the forest in a better way, say you have to bring some strict rules in case of hunting or poaching and various other things a man is doing, right? So that way you can able to conserve the wildlife to a greater extent. And definitely a fair price has to be given for government or forest department. See, whenever these industrialists take the raw materials from a forest, they have to pay nice price for the government, so that with the help of that particular money, government can able to manage the forest in a better way, right? So definitely a fairer price has to be fixed for the industrialists who are getting raw materials from a forest. So they have to pay nice prices to the government officials for the benefit, and the government must use that particular money to develop the forest and to conserve the forest, to protect the forest in a better way without misusing it, right? Okay. And next important thing is local people's participation. Local people's participation is very much necessary to protect the forest, because local people are the one who live in a forest and live around the forest. So these guys must understand the importance of forest, and they should avoid exploitation of the forest to some extent. See, these guys must completely have awareness about each and everything that is there in a forest, and how to protect it, and how to save the wildlife, and etc. Right? Say these are the four important points that we have to keep it in our mind to save the forest in a larger extent. Now let us see how local people have participated in the management of forest. We have so many instances in our country, like the Chipko Andolan, and then Bishnoi communities sacrifice and everything. See, let us see few examples where actually local people have participated in the management of forest. See guys, the first example that you can observe how the local people participated in managing the forest is the Chipko Andolan in Garhwal. High up in the Himalayan region, the contractors have come to cut the trees. Say when contractors had come to cut the trees, the local people, particularly the local women, surrounded a tree, making a strike not to cut the trees, right? So, and this is what we mean by the Chipko Andolan, or we can also say it as Hug the Trees movement. Hug the tree movement. Okay, say local people surrounded the trees when contractors came to cut the tree. That way, these people have protested against alienation of people from the forest. Okay, say normally when they contractors cut the trees and they use it for the industrial purpose, these local people will not get a timber and wood, whatever they have to get from a forest. And ultimately, when some industrial process is going on in a forest, they have to vacate their area and they should shift somewhere, right? And that is what, emptying the forest land for the livelihood and going to some other cities is called alienation, right? We are making a barren land in a forest, right? And to avoid that, they have protested like this, and that is what we mean by Chipko Andolan, which took place high up in the Himalayan region called Garhwal. Fine. And the second one is Sal forest restoration. See, government has failed to revive this forest in a better way. So the local people, along with the leader called A.K. Banerjee, and the local people started protecting this sal forest. And sal forest, most of the area in a sal forest was degraded. I mean, it was a barren thing. Okay, and they started improving at least like 1270 hectares into a green cover. The green cover was not there in this forest, but they have tried to bring the green cover. I mean to say, they tried to bring the forest, in this much area. And government observed this and they started giving nice benefits for these local people. They allowed the people to cultivate various commercial crops like, the bamboo, teak and everything. And later, that way, some percentage of benefit was given for the local people for bringing the forest once again, for retrieving the forest once again. Okay, and that is about the sal forest restoration, how the people brought back the sal forest and how they brought back the green cover back in the forest, right? And next is protection of Kejri trees in Rajasthan. And there's a community called Bishnoi community. And this community people believe that the forests are very much essential for the livelihood, and every living organism has a right to live on earth. And protecting a forest and conserving wildlife is a part of their religion actually. So that's the reason a person called Amruta Devi Bishnoi protected the Kejri trees along with so many other members. They have sacrificed their life in the protection of Kejri trees in the Rajasthan, right? So these are the three most important examples that can teach us that even the local people had a great heart in the protection of the forest, right? Say one is Chipko Andolan, Sal forest restoration and protection of Kejri trees in Rajasthan. Try to remember these three examples. Next, a very small topic I would like to discuss is what will happen if we don't conserve a forest. When you don't conserve a forest, there occurs a soil erosion. So what do you mean by soil erosion? Soil losing its fertility gradually is called soil erosion. Whenever you cut a plant or a trees in a forest, that particular soil in an area would lose its fertility and it would go away during the floods time, right? Say that way you can observe soil erosion. And when there is no green cover, our wildlife also will get affected. Wildlife will become extinct. So many of the wildlife species are already becoming extinct, and in the future we don't find the important species of wildlife. Say that is what happens if you destroy the forest. And when you destroy the wildlife, and automatically imbalance in the ecology takes place. Imbalance in ecology, ecological imbalance is what observed. And finally, destruction of biodiversity can create a great impact in the environment or in a society to a larger extent. It creates a great negative impact, definitely. Say these are the things that would happen if you don't conserve or if you don't manage the forest in a better way, right? So this is all about the forest and wildlife. Say try to remember about the four stakeholders and what are their duties and how they affect the forest and how they can protect the forest, and later how to manage our forest, right? And finally try to remember the three examples, like how the local people participation also can help us in managing a forest, right? So this is all about the forest and wildlife. And in the next video, I will meet up with water resources conservation. Thank you so much. If you like our video, please share and subscribe our channel to learn the concepts in a easiest way and in a detailed way. Thank you so much.